Okay, enough of this pseudo-vlogger style. This video is about research on self-driving vehicles at the ETH Zurich. It's the first episode on the endeavor to develop a self-driving car in my own lab, so keep watching for some interesting insights. Back in April, I was invited by my good friend Jan to Zurich. We first met at our military service almost 19 years ago and ended up studying at the TU Darmstadt. We became good friends, sharing interest in computer graphics, music and math. He continued moving all over the world doing meaningful research, while I stayed in Darmstadt doing impactful work. After his work on self-driving cars at Nutonomy in Singapore, he went to Zurich to help set up new research projects at the Mechanical and Process Engineering department of the ETH. The ETH Zurich, you guessed it, is a university for science and technology in Switzerland. It was home to 21 Nobel Prize winners, Albert Einstein amongst them. At the institute in the city center, I was able to get a peek in the engineering labs and on some nice hardware they are working with. For example, this LiDAR, it cost more than a Tesla Model 3 and is really porn. A LiDAR is a laser-based distance measuring system. This one scans the whole 360 degrees up to 20 times a second with 32 layers. The data is transferred via UDP. LiDARs are quite popular in many self-driving car projects because you get the distance right away. But there are also vision-based systems like on the Tesla Model 3, which have to calculate the distance by analyzing stereoscopic images and tracking image features. Elon Musk just stated at the Tesla annual shareholder meeting his belief that vision-based systems are superior to LiDARs.
Once you've made vision work extremely well, LiDAR is really unnecessary. It's not really adding anything.
Duckytown is a project at the ETH which is completely vision-based. The idea behind it is to have a unified, low-cost platform for education on autonomous robots. The team here develops a cheap open-source robot kit which can easily be assembled and programmed to drive around a model city. Since the platform is unified, people from all over the world will also be able to upload their controlling software to a robot in this Duckytown. This allows for collaboration and a competition like the planned driving Olympics at the end of this year. The objective for the robots is to drive around the city respecting the traffic rules and avoiding accidents. There are traffic lights, signs, markings, and the pedestrian ducky should never be hit. The distinct colors simplify the vision-based recognition. For seamless interoperation, the robots are also able to communicate and negotiate just by blinking LED lights. It's 100% vision-based. In its final form, the Duckytown will not require any human assistance, so a charging station was just developed as I was visiting. Thanks to Jacopo and the students for giving me a spontaneous demonstration. On the next day, I was also able to attend an attestation of students which had the task to implement controller software driving the robot through a simple course without any casualties. As you can see, at higher speeds some strategies are falling apart. I like the project. It sets up a gamified educational path for future developers in the self-driving industry. If you are interested, check out the Duckytown homepage linked below. Now let's scale up a bit and switch to a more spacious place. The bigger projects are placed in the just founded Innovation Park, which is taking over an old military airport in Dübendorf. The main project Jan is working on is the autonomous cart, which is tested in this hangar. By the way, it's also where the Solar Impulse plane which surrounded the world was built. And there is also a Hyperloop test track being set up as we speak. The autonomous kart project was just started half a year ago. The goal is to have driverless go-karts racing a track, but it also serves as a testing platform for the algorithms the team is developing. These will be deployed to the next level, which is a consumer electric car, a Renault Zoe in this case. The principles are the same, but it takes a lot more time and effort to get it past the Swiss regulations. By the way, most of the code is open source, you can find the GitHub link in the description. The electric kart is not built from scratch. It's an upgraded Remo Sinus Ion go-kart, which is already impressive by itself. But the manual controls like the brake and steering needed to be enhanced and some sensors needed to be added to scan the environment. The brakes are controlled by a quick and powerful linear motor. It's capable of applying a maximum force of 255 Newton and moving 3.8 meters per second. It's connected to the brake pedal, which can always be used manually for an emergency brake, passing over the control to the driver. No changes have been made to the brake hydraulics. The steering has been extended by an automotive-grade power-assisted steering. It's actually overpowered and used at 1/10 of its force to not rip off the thumbs of the driver. Since the peak current of the steering exceeds the capabilities of the main battery, an additional lead-acid battery was added to the front. The main drive is controlled by setting the torque value over the available CAN bus of the cart. CAN bus is quite common in the automotive industry. The accelerator pedal is not used at all, since all manual control, except for the emergency brake, is done using a basic gamepad. All the actuators come with feedback encoders. The steering does only relative encoding, so it has to do a calibration procedure on startup. All the additional electronics are placed in this metal box in the back. The controlling of the cart is done by a standard laptop. The cart now has the capability to be controlled completely by the computer. But for safety reasons, a driver has to control the speed using the gamepad until a remote off switch is installed. Let's take a look at the sensors. The main work is currently done by the Velodyne 16 LiDAR. This one does up to 20 360-degree scans per second at 16 layers. The layers are spread plus/minus 15 degrees from the horizontal plane. This is how the transmitted image looks like. The upper one is the distance, the lower is the reflectivity. The placement of the camera and the layer angles result in a blind spot in the lower region of the back for now. Then there is a basic Garmin GPS receiver. Directed to the front there is an event-based camera. It's the Inilabs Davis 240C. It was the first time I ever heard of this. This camera just sends the pixels to the computer, which change in contrast, limiting the data to a minimum. This allows for really high update rates and latencies in the microsecond range, which is good for fast reactions of the system. In the front is a LiDAR, which is not used anymore since it has a maximum range of 5 meters and a single scanning plane. This single plane is seriously limiting, being not able to scan downwards. It will probably be moved back to close the blind spot there. All the sensor data is logged for further analysis. That sums up of approximately a gigabyte of data per 10 minutes of drive. That is all about the tech. Let's have a bit of fun and do a bit of real life Mario Kart. It's pure force. Jan is obviously more experienced driving it like this. A vehicle which can be controlled by a computer is the first step, but the main challenge is to let it drive autonomously. That's something we will take a look at after a short break. Okay, let's take a short look at how the self-driving works. The goal is to perform autonomous transportation. This starts with a simple assistance like the autopilot in the current Teslas. Next level will be to follow your navigation like a route from Google Maps. And the big picture might be an automated dispatch system which will pick up passengers and drive them to their destinations. A city-level dispatch system, which could be used for that, is another serious research which is also done by the same department at the ETH. Let's focus at the individual car itself. The Motion Planner software receives a target navigation path. It tries to maneuver the car as close to it as possible within its constraints. These are vehicle dimensions, turning radius, acceleration, but also the environment, obstacles and other traffic participants. You can imagine a vehicle can't turn around 90 degrees instantly. It has to maneuver around. Since much of this information changes constantly, it tries to plan just a few meters ahead, building a decision tree what to do next, simulating the resulting paths. The best path and its actions are taken. You can see in this simulation which paths are calculated and which are finally taken. Transferred to the CART project, a path is set up to follow a track. This is an actual capture of the cart and its LiDAR response. The motion planner reacts to the interference from moving obstacles and maneuvers around them. I linked the scientific paper on the motion planner used in this case. As I was visiting, we set up this 8-loop path in the virtual map. This virtual map with its features is matched to the environment scanned by the cart. Outdoors, this will be obviously assisted by the GPS. Now the cart is engaged with the target path within the hangar and will try to follow it. That's actually enough to let it drive a track without a driver. Since we cannot let it escape to evolve to Skynet, a volunteer driver controls just the speed at which it follows the path. We outline the track it's going with these cones. It's amazing how repeatable it is even if we set the cones really narrow to the cart. And this is probably not achievable by regular human drivers anymore. Of course there are limitations. The system can't predict the bad flooring in this corner and skids a bit off track at high speeds, but it returns to the path immediately. To show how it reacts to dynamic obstacles, Jan just entered the track. In this case the cart decelerates and even brakes if needed. My command to accelerate is overridden. Since the environment is scanned by the LiDAR, it's also simple to simulate an obstacle by putting something in its field of view, like I did with my camera in this case. You can even see the scan rays. Cool! It was really interesting to see and test the projects they are working on. After a nice hike at the last day of the visit, it was time to head back to my lab. Thanks to Jan and his department for giving me that insight. Check out his projects on hackenberg.de. He also uploads some footage on his YouTube channel. I'm really interested to build a self-driving car myself, but of a little bit different kind. If you like to watch my endeavors doing it, subscribe and also consider supporting my lab. See you next time. Bye!